Okay, so this is a very important addendum. This is the property sale contingency addendum, okay? This is the buyer, your buyer, needs to sell their home at 123 Main Street in order to buy their new dream home in Morristown. The purchase of the new dream home in Morristown is contingent on the sale of 123 Main Street in Mount Laurel. So this document must be included with the contract. And it's easy to fill out, but I want to make sure you understand what this verbiage means here. And if you read it, you should understand it is in layman's terms, but essentially we're saying that this contract, the contract that we've already signed, right? And then we got to section 42, where it had all the check boxes for different addenda that might apply. There was one that said property sale contingency, so we checked that off because we have that on this deal. And now we're attaching this to the contract. So this addendum is attached to that contract, and it's contingent on the sale of the buyer's property located at 123 Main Street, Mount Laurel, to sell on or before this date. What's the contingent settlement date? So if your property the contingent property, 123 Main Street in Mount Laurel, if it's not under contract yet, you're going to have to put a best guess estimate here. And that's okay, because you'll see how this contingency is removed later. So I would put this date, probably out past the settlement date of the dream home in Morristown, just in case you need to extend that a little bit. It'll allow for a buffer for you there. Then if we scroll down, it's going to say this is the date that the buyer needs to enter into a contract of sale for 123 Main Street in Mount Laurel, because this addendum is written for two scenarios. The contingent property, 123 Main Street in Mount Laurel, option 1 is not under contract. That's this paragraph basically. And option 2, that it is under contract. Okay, so if it is not under contract, then you're going to put a date in here that says the buyer has to enter into a contract by X. So a lot of times that might be like, if a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever it is. But the biggest thing to note here, the biggest thing to note that people skip over all the time is this paragraph, this language right here. A standard deal in New Jersey, when contingent, gives the seller the right to continue to market the property. So this dream home in Morristown that your buyers want to buy, the seller has the right to continue to market the property for sale until the buyer provides a contract for sale for 123 Main Street in Mount Laurel. Once that happens and the seller gets the contract for the contingent deal, then they have to stop showings and stop marketing the dream home in Morristown, right? So I hope that makes sense, because a lot of times not a lot of times, but sometimes there's been cases where the buyers say, I only want to buy my dream house in Morristown. I don't want any other house. So they don't even have their house listed. And now they're doing all this, going through all this work to buy this house in Morristown. They sign this addendum. They go under contract to buy Morristown. Now they list their house in Mount Laurel, and they're going through that process. They paid money to stage it. They did this, X, Y, Z. Now the dream home in Morristown gets another offer because they've been marketing the property in the background. They're allowed to do that. So if that dream home in Morristown, if they get a better offer, they can't automatically take it, but what they can do is say, hey buyer, you need to provide us in writing that you're dropping the contingency, and you need to prove to us that you're financially capable of doing that. So you might need the lender to jump in and say in an email as well, or provide a new pre-approval that doesn't have the contingency on it. So that is the way the standard documents are written. Of course, we negotiate different things outside of this language, but I want you to understand that that's what this language says here. So make sure that your buyers and your sellers understand that. And if it's not what you agreed on in your offer, then this needs to change. If you said, as soon as we go under contract, you need to shut down showings, well, this negates that. So you need to make sure that you have better language. And again, how are we going to do that? We're going to get an attorney involved to protect the buyer who's going through all this work to list their contingent home. But not usually an issue, but just something to consider when you're filling out a contingency addendum. And all there is here, 2 pages, have the buyer and seller sign it.